I never believed the alien stuff. You know, those wild History Channel guys with messy hair yelling about ancient astronauts and technology we can't explain. I used to laugh at that kind of talk. Until I went to Egypt. Not as a tourist, hell no. I was there with a private research crew, funded by people whose names don't appear on any Forbes list, but probably own half the names that do. We were told we were structural consultants, checking stability in one of the lesser-known corridors beneath the Great Pyramid. But that was just the cover story. There were men in our team who didn't belong. Soldiers, no doubt about it. They didn't speak much. The kind of guys with cold eyes and scars that tell stories they'll never share. The first few days were routine. Then, on the third night, we went in deep, way past the official map. The air was thick, stale, but there was something else too. A hum, low and steady, like a heartbeat inside the stone itself. We stopped in front of a wall that shouldn't have been there. Smooth, perfectly cut, and dead silent. Our lead, a man we only called the doctor, ran his hand along it. There was a click, a faint pulse of heat, and the wall shifted open. Just like that. Behind it, a smooth tunnel spiraled downward. The rock wasn't limestone. It looked almost metallic, reflecting our flashlights like brushed steel. I remember touching the wall. It was cool, humming softly, like it was alive. When we reached the bottom, we found a chamber no map ever mentioned. No carvings, no hieroglyphs, just a wide circular room with a faint greenish light that didn't seem to come from anywhere. Floating at the center was a sphere, perfectly black, perfectly silent. And yet, it moved, not much, just enough for the surface to ripple like oil when you looked at it too long. The doctor raised some kind of scanner, not military, not scientific either, and whispered, "They're still here." Nobody asked who they were, but every single one of us felt it. That crawling sensation at the base of your skull, like something behind the walls was watching you. We stayed in that room until sunrise. The soldiers set up perimeter lights that kept flickering, batteries drained fast, like the air itself was eating power. One guy swore he heard voices, whispers in a language he didn't recognize. Before we left, I turned back for one last look, and I swear that black sphere breathed, just once, like a sleeping giant taking in air. That's when I realized the pyramids weren't tombs, they were machines, and we had just turned one of them back on. We thought we were the explorers, but maybe, just maybe, we were the intruders. We made it back to the surface just before sunrise. The desert looked the same, calm, endless, gold under the morning haze. But something was off. You could feel it. The air buzzed, like the whole plateau was holding its breath. The doctor didn't say a word. He just handed off the scanner to one of the soldiers, muttered something about energy signatures, and walked straight into the mobile command tent. None of us followed. We didn't have to. Whatever that black sphere was, it had shaken even him. And that man didn't scare easy. About 2 hours later, the base generators started acting up. Lights flickered, radios cut out. One of the comm guys said the frequencies were bleeding together, signals from different channels overlapping into static, like something was jamming us. By noon, our satellite uplink was dead. The desert heat was brutal, but I remember shivering when I realized the last message we sent, coordinates, data readings, everything, hadn't gone through. Then came the noise. It started faint, almost like the rumble of distant thunder. But it wasn't from the sky. It came from below, deep under the sand. You could feel it through your boots, like the earth itself was breathing. The soldiers went on alert. One of them, I think his name was Rayner, said the vibration matched low-frequency resonance patterns. Whatever that meant, it wasn't good. That night, around 2 a.m., The doctor called a meeting. He said we were dealing with something non-terrestrial in composition. He showed us images from the scanner, complex geometric patterns surrounding the sphere, moving, changing like a living circuit. He believed the object wasn't just ancient, it was awake. We wanted to pull out, but the soldiers had different orders. "We stay until the signal stabilizes," their commander said. "No one leaves until the doctor says so." Around 4 a.m., everything went black. The power, the comms, even the emergency lights. Only the moonlight remained, and that faint green glow from inside the pyramid. Raynor and I grabbed our flashlights and ran toward it. The glow pulsed now, rhythmic, slow, like a heartbeat. When we stepped inside, the air felt electric, the hair on my arms standing up. And then we saw it. The sphere wasn't floating anymore. It was rising. Slowly, silently, lifting itself off the pedestal, drawing thin strands of light from the walls, as if the pyramid itself was feeding it. Raynor tried the radio, nothing but static. Then a voice broke through, but not in English. It was low, metallic, and impossibly calm. "Return what is ours." That's when the doctor appeared behind us, his face pale and drenched in sweat. He didn't look surprised. He just whispered, "They're not gone. They've been waiting." The ground trembled. Dust fell from the ceiling. Somewhere deep inside the pyramid, something clicked, a massive mechanism shifting after thousands of years. We didn't know it yet, but that sound marked the beginning of something much bigger. The kind of thing that doesn't stay buried forever. The sun came up like a blood-red coin over the horizon, and I'll never forget how still the desert was that morning. No wind, no sound, just that low vibration under our feet, the one that started after the sphere rose from its cradle. By the time we regrouped outside the main chamber, half the equipment had fried. The monitors showed static, the scanners were blank, and even the compasses spun like drunk dancers. One of the soldiers said it was an electromagnetic event. The doctor just stared at the pyramid, mumbling something that sounded more like a prayer than a theory. We were ordered to seal the chamber. The military guys moved fast, steel plates, welding gear, the works. But the second that torch touched the stone, the sparks curved upward. Like gravity didn't mean a damn thing down there. The flame itself bent away from the wall, drawn toward something inside. Then the hum changed. It wasn't steady anymore. It was pulsing, faster, deeper. You could feel it in your chest, pushing the air out of your lungs. I swear I heard a whisper again, right behind me. But when I turned, everyone else was staring straight ahead, pale and silent. They'd heard it too. You cannot close what was never open. Raynor dropped his torch. The light hit the floor, rolled, and for a second we all saw it, the stone itself moving. Not shifting like rock, breathing. The blocks around the entrance flexed, expanding and contracting in rhythm with that pulse. We backed up fast. The doctor shouted something about structural metamaterial and reactive lattice geometry. Whatever that meant, the pyramid wasn't just a monument anymore. It was alive. He told us to get topside, said he needed to communicate. I didn't ask with who. We climbed out of there like our lives depended on it. Outside, the sky was wrong. The sun was up, but the light had this green tint to it, same shade as the glow from the chamber. The local workers were gone. Every single one of them had vanished overnight. Their tents, tools, even the tracks in the sand, gone. Like they'd never existed. The soldiers started arguing with the doctor. They wanted to call in reinforcements, maybe an air evac. The doctor refused, said, "They'll see it. They'll come here." I didn't understand what he meant until that night. Around midnight, the pyramid began to emit a soft tone, a single note, low and steady, echoing across the desert. It was so deep you didn't hear it. You felt it. Miles away, I could see the sand ripple in waves. Raynor tried to reach command again. His radio hissed, then cleared. A voice answered. Not command, not human. Coordinates received, passage reopening. That's when the doctor dropped to his knees. He looked up at the sky, and I'll never forget what he said next. They're not coming back to Earth. They never left. By the time the fourth night came, sleep wasn't even on the table. The whole camp had turned into a field of silent faces, everyone pretending not to hear the hum rolling up from beneath the sand. It had a rhythm now, a pattern, like a heartbeat buried under a mountain. The doctor hadn't left the tent all day. He sat there surrounded by half-dead monitors and piles of notebooks, muttering equations like prayers. When he finally called us in, his face looked thinner, somehow, hollowed out. He told us the pyramid wasn't a tomb, wasn't even a monument. It was a signal booster. Those blocks, he said, pointing at a thermal scan that pulsed with heat signatures. They're not just stone, they're resonant crystals. Every time the pulse hits, it amplifies, it's calling something. He didn't need to say what. By midnight, the hum was loud enough to shake dust from the floodlights. One of the soldiers, the youngest, Martinez, lost it. He grabbed his rifle and started shouting at the pyramid, demanding whatever was inside to show itself. The doctor tried to stop him, but before he could, the pyramid answered. A sound ripped through the air, high-pitched, sharp, like glass tearing in half. Martinez's gun flew out of his hands. The sand around his feet liquefied, swallowing him to the knees before we could blink. Then came light. Bright, violent, white-green light that shot from the cracks in the pyramid's surface like veins of fire. The ground stopped shaking. Martinez was gone. Just gone. His rifle lay on the surface, steaming. Then something opened. A line appeared down the center of the pyramid's north face, running perfectly straight from top to base. The stone didn't crumble, it peeled. The blocks shifted apart like petals, revealing a black void that swallowed our floodlights whole. Inside, you could see something move. Smooth, deliberate. And behind it, rows of symbols began to appear on the pyramid's surface, thousands of them, shifting in real time like a computer booting up. Raynor whispered, "That's not construction, that's activation." The doctor nodded slowly, eyes wide. "It's been asleep," he said, "and we just woke it up." The temperature dropped fast. You could see your breath even in the desert night. Static filled the air so thick you could taste it. Then, from that black opening, a sound came out, soft, deep, almost kind. A voice. "Do not fear the return. Fear the memory." It wasn't coming from speakers or radios. It came from inside your skull. Every one of us heard it, felt it, like a vibration in our bones. The doctor dropped to his knees, whispering, "They're inside the lattice, still alive." And just then, the stars flickered. The whole sky blinked, as if something enormous had passed between Earth and the sun. The pulse stopped for exactly 3 seconds. And then it came back, louder than ever. The pyramid wasn't just awake. It was talking to something out there. And whatever was listening was answering. We lost the camp at dawn. The generators burned out one by one, and the soldiers couldn't start the trucks. Even the digital watches on our wrists froze. All stopped at the exact same second. 03:33 a.m. Raynor said it wasn't just power failure. He said the pyramid had created a magnetic field strong enough to choke every circuit within miles. The doctor just called it containment. The opening in the north face was still there. Wide, dark, breathing. You could see waves of heat, or maybe energy, rolling out of it, bending the air like a mirage. The sand around it was glassy now, melted and fused into a smooth black crust. And right at the edge of that molten ground stood the doctor, staring in, whispering to himself. He told us the voice we'd heard wasn't a warning. It was an invitation. Against every instinct I had left, we followed him inside. The chamber had changed. It wasn't the same stone hallway anymore. The walls shimmered, rearranging, like the geometry itself was alive and couldn't decide what shape to be. Every few seconds, the whole place would flicker between smooth metallic corridors and raw limestone, like it existed in two realities at once. Then we reached the sphere. Only now, it wasn't black, it was transparent. Inside it, something was moving, thousands of thin threads of light weaving together, forming symbols that hung in the air, bright and fluid, like living code. The doctor lifted his scanner, but it barely held together. The display kept glitching, spitting out fragments of text and audio. Then suddenly, the feed stabilized. The screen flashed 3 words. "We remember you." I don't know what made me ask, but I turned to him and said, "What the hell does that mean?" He didn't answer. He was trembling. He said the symbols weren't just communication, they were genetic patterns, the code of a species. And part of that alien sequence, matched something buried deep in human DNA. That's when I realized they didn't just visit Earth, they left something behind, something inside us. The sphere pulsed again. Every time it flashed, the chamber changed shape faster, smoother, like it was reacting to us. One of the soldiers yelled that his head hurt, blood running from his nose. Then another collapsed. The doctor shouted, "It's syncing with us. It's reading our code." The hum rose to a scream. My vision went white. And for a split second, I saw things that didn't belong to this world. Massive structures floating in black space, beams of light stretching between them like arteries. Voices all around me, whispering the same phrase in 100 languages. "We built the gates. You became the keys." Then, silence. When I opened my eyes, I was outside the pyramid again. Alone. The camp was gone. No tents, no trucks, no footprints. Just sand. And the pyramid, sealed. Perfect. As if it had never opened at all. I woke up face down in the sand, half buried, the sun already high and burning through my skull. No sign of the others, no sign of the camp, just the Great Pyramid, silent, perfect, untouchable, as if the last few nights had never happened. But my radio was still strapped to my vest, and it was on. At first, only static. Then, faintly, a voice. "Anyone left? Repeat. Sector 7. Raynor. He was alive." I started walking toward the sound, following the faint hiss and crackle until I reached the ridge above the dig site. That's when I saw them. 3 figures standing in the heat haze, still as statues. 2 soldiers and the doctor. I called out. They didn't turn, not even a twitch. When I got closer, I saw their faces, eyes open, pupils blown wide, reflecting the sun like mirrors. Their skin looked wrong, not burned, but shimmering, like there was something moving just beneath it. The doctor finally spoke. His voice was flat, mechanical, like it was being played back from somewhere far away. "You shouldn't have left. The process wasn't finished." I asked what process he meant. He smiled, that slow, hollow kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. "Integration. The lattice accepted us." Raynor turned toward me then. He was holding his rifle, but his hands weren't steady. His veins glowed faintly under the skin, same color as that green light in the chamber. I backed up. The doctor stepped closer. "You heard the message," he said. "You felt it. It called you too." And maybe he was right, because in that moment, I could feel it humming behind my ribs. The same rhythm, that same pulse. The sound of the pyramid, the sound of them. The air around the three of them shimmered, like heat rising off asphalt, and for a second their outlines blurred, almost transparent. I could see through them. Their bones weren't bones anymore. They looked like glass, filled with liquid light. Then Rayner's voice came through my radio again, but his mouth wasn't moving. "We remember you." The doctor reached out, touched my shoulder. Instantly, every nerve in my body screamed. My vision fractured into 1,000 images. Flashes of black towers, seas of molten glass, a sky full of creatures shaped like sound. And then, a memory that wasn't mine. Hands, human hands, building something under alien skies. Pyramids of light rising in a place where gravity bent sideways. When I tore free, I was on the ground again. The three of them were gone. No footprints, no dust, nothing. Just the desert. But that night I started hearing the hum again. Not from beneath the sand this time, from inside me. And when I looked up at the pyramid, its tip was glowing, faint, steady, pulsing in time with my heartbeat. 3 nights after the incident, I made it back to Cairo. Or at least I think I did. Everything felt hazy, unreal, like the city wasn't quite in sync with me anymore. Lights flickered when I walked past. Electronics went fuzzy. Strangers stared too long, then looked away, like they could feel something coming off me. I checked into a cheap hotel near the river, used a fake name. I hadn't slept more than an hour since the desert, because every time I closed my eyes, I'd see the doctor's face, that glassy stare, the light crawling under his skin, and the hum, always the hum. It was quieter now, buried deep beneath my heartbeat. But sometimes, when the world went still, in elevators, tunnels, or during power outages, I could hear it again, clear as day. That's when I started noticing the others. It began with a message, encrypted, bouncing through dead networks and expired domains. No sender ID, no trace, just one sentence. "We're awake too." Attached was a GPS coordinate, somewhere in Nevada. I shouldn't have gone. God knows I shouldn't. But curiosity and fear make a dangerous mix. And part of me already knew what I'd find there. When I arrived, there were 7 of them. Men and women from different parts of the world, engineers, scientists, ex-military. Every one of them had been at a different dig, a different site. South America, Turkey, Antarctica. And all of them had heard the same pulse. They called themselves the Resonance. The leader, a woman named Elise, told me what they'd pieced together. The pyramids weren't built by aliens visiting Earth. They were receivers. Nodes in a planetary network, each one buried above something older, something alive. And the signal, the one we'd triggered, had reconnected the network after thousands of years of silence. I asked her how she knew that. She rolled up her sleeve. Her veins glowed faintly green in the dark. "Because it's talking through us," she said. "We're the conduits now." They had data, seismic readings, radio patterns, magnetic surges. All of them pulsing in rhythm, every 88 minutes, perfectly synchronized across the globe. The doctor's name appeared in their files too. He wasn't just in Egypt. He'd led expeditions in Peru, in Xi'an, in the ice fields under Antarctica. And every site had the same buried architecture, the same black metal, the same symbols. And here's the part that really chilled me. Elise said the pulse was growing stronger. Every time one of us heard it, it increased in amplitude, like we were transmitters amplifying a broadcast. She looked straight at me, her eyes reflecting that same faint light I'd seen under the pyramid. "It's not calling them back," she said. "It's rebuilding them, through us." That night I dreamed of a city, not on Earth, not anywhere human. Towers made of liquid stone, vast pyramids rising into clouds of light. And beneath it all, I could feel them. Not gods, not saviors, engineers, builders. And the worst part, I could feel them moving, not in the dream, in me. We met in an old Cold War bunker outside Tonopah, Nevada, the kind of place that doesn't show up on satellite maps. Rusted doors, dead ventilation, humming fluorescent lights that never stopped flickering. Elise said the government built it in the 50s to study non-terrestrial resonance, but abandoned it after the first frequency event. Whatever that meant, it didn't sound good. We were down there for one reason: to kill the signal. The resonance had pieced together a map, every pyramid, ziggurat, obelisk, even certain mountain formations. They formed a geometric grid, a global circuit. And at the center of that grid, right where longitude and latitude bent like warped metal, sat Giza, the heart. Elise believed the pulse was feeding energy through that network, charging something buried deep beneath the desert. And if we could jam the pattern before it reached critical amplitude, maybe we could stop it. She called it Project Silence. We set up arrays, hacked into military satellites, stole enough Cold War hardware to start a small war. But nothing prepared us for the sound. When we powered up the interference field, the entire bunker trembled. Metal screamed, radios melted into static. My teeth buzzed. And then, silence. For the first time in months, the hum was gone. We looked at each other, shaking, sweating, half laughing in relief. It had worked, but only for about 40 seconds. Then the lights went out. Every monitor flicked to black, and one by one, faces started appearing on the screens. Not human faces, not exactly. Shapes of light, like distorted reflections on dark water. "Return the signal!" The voice wasn't coming from the speakers. It was inside our heads. Elise screamed, clutching her skull, blood dripping from her nose. The rest of us fell to the floor. My vision exploded with flashes, sand, stone, stars bending like liquid glass. And somewhere in that chaos, I saw the pyramid again. But it wasn't stone anymore. It was open, glowing, like a heart split in half. A surge of light shot from Giza straight into the atmosphere. A green column stabbing through the clouds, so bright it turned night to day. Our interference grid didn't stop the signal. It completed it. The bunker shook like a rocket launch. Equipment flew off tables, concrete cracked. Elise dragged herself toward the console, screaming over the noise. "It's too late. It's a chain reaction. It's global." One of the resonants, a quiet guy named Haru, slammed his fist on the emergency panel. "Shut it down!" Elise looked at him, terrified. "You don't understand. There's nothing left to shut down." I crawled to the doorway, looked out through the metal grates toward the desert. And there it was, a green aurora spreading across the sky. Not from the poles, from every direction. The hum returned, deeper, fuller, richer than ever. You could feel it inside your bones, twisting, rewriting something in you. Elise whispered, "It's not a signal anymore. It's a heartbeat." The Earth wasn't just receiving anymore, it was answering. We lost the grid within hours, every satellite feed, every military channel, gone. The sky was burning green, streaked with arcs of lightning that didn't make a sound. Cities went dark, planes vanished off radar, compasses spun like toys. The hum wasn't in the air anymore. It was in everything. Back in Cairo, the streets were chaos. People were panicking, praying, recording everything on dead phones. And over all that noise, the Great Pyramid glowed like a beacon, bright enough to throw shadows 10 miles wide. Elise and I caught a military transport toward Giza. The pilot didn't say a word the whole flight. He just stared out the cockpit window, eyes glassy. When we landed, he stayed in his seat, still breathing, but gone. We didn't try to wake him. The desert looked wrong. The dunes were rippling, slowly, steadily, like the ground was breathing. And beneath it, you could see flashes of light, something mechanical, something moving. We hiked toward the plateau, using only the glow from the pyramid to guide us. Halfway there, Elise grabbed my arm and pointed. The sand was splitting. A line, straight as a blade, tearing across the landscape, stretching for miles. From that crack came heat, wet, chemical heat, and a sound like metal grinding against bone. Then it rose, first just a sliver, dark, jagged, massive. Then another, then dozens, rising like the tips of buried towers, all angled toward the pyramid. They weren't buildings, they were roots. The pyramid shuddered. The light around it bent, pulsing in time with the hum. Every flash sent shock waves through the sand, shaking loose entire dunes. And with each pulse, the roots grew, lifting more of the desert, exposing black, glistening structures below. Elise fell to her knees, whispering, "It's not a machine, it's a body." I didn't understand at first, but then I saw it. The pyramid wasn't just sitting on top of something, it was part of it. The stone was only the outer shell, the visible tip of something miles deep, something that had been sleeping beneath the earth for thousands of years. We heard voices again, dozens, hundreds, coming from the air, the sand, from us. The lattice reawakens. The builders return. Elise turned toward me. Her eyes glowed faint green. "It's not coming out," she said. "It's coming back online." The horizon rippled. A shock wave rolled through the air, flattening everything in its path. When I looked up, the top of the pyramid was gone. It had unfolded, blooming open like metal petals, revealing a hollow core filled with swirling light. Inside that light, something looked back. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. It was beautiful and terrifying, shapes that weren't shapes, geometry that hurt to see. A presence older than humanity itself. And it was awake. The last thing I remember before blacking out was Elise's voice, small and shaking. "It's not from the stars. The stars came from it." When I came to, the world was quiet, too quiet. The hum was gone, the wind was gone. Even the sky, if that's what it still was, had stopped moving. I was lying on what used to be sand, though it wasn't sand anymore. The whole desert had turned to a smooth, glassy surface that pulsed faintly under the light of a sky that shimmered like water. The Great Pyramid was no longer a pyramid. It had unfolded, reshaped itself into something vast and impossible. Part architecture, part organism, miles wide and alive with motion. Columns of light stretched from its core up into the clouds, bending, spiraling, feeding something above. Elise was standing near the base, barefoot, staring up. Her eyes glowed like twin suns. "It's finished," she said softly. "The signal's complete." Around us, figures were emerging from the glassy dunes. Hundreds, maybe thousands of people, walking slowly, their movements synchronized, calm. Some wore what was left of military gear. Others, civilian clothes turned to rags. All of them had the same faint green light pulsing under their skin. They didn't look lost. They looked connected. I stumbled toward Elise, shouting her name. She turned, smiling that eerie, distant smile. "You fought it longer than most," she said. "But it's in you, too. You can feel it, can't you?" And she was right. The pulse I'd been hearing for weeks was no longer just sound. It was rhythm, alignment. Every heartbeat syncing with the great heartbeat of whatever was buried beneath us. The sky cracked open. No thunder, just light. Blinding, endless light spilling across the horizon, revealing shapes far above. Massive structures, metallic and fluid, descending through clouds like cities suspended on rivers of energy. The builders, not ships, not life as we understood it. More like the blueprint of consciousness made visible, geometry folding and unfolding in endless patterns. They weren't arriving from somewhere else. They were phasing in. The Earth was remembering what it used to be. Elise reached for me. "We were never their creation," she said. "We were their continuation." I looked down at my hands. The veins were glowing now, pulsing with the same light that filled the air. And deep inside, I could feel thoughts that weren't mine. Vast, ancient memories, equations that weren't numbers, but living instructions. The builders weren't taking over. They were uploading. Across the world, monuments came alive. The Mayan temples, the ziggurats, the monoliths, all burning with the same emerald light, connecting across continents in a web of energy older than time. Earth itself became a circuit, humming again, but this time not as a warning, as a greeting. The last thing I remember seeing was Elise lifting her face to the sky, whispering, "Welcome home." And then, silence. A silence so perfect, it felt infinite. I don't know how long it's been since then. Days, years, maybe forever. But when I put my hand to the ground, it still pulses, the heartbeat of something vast and waiting. And sometimes, when the wind is still, I swear I hear the whisper again. "We built the gates. You became the keys."